I seriously never thought that I'd be making a video like this. It wasn't too long ago that I left my faith completely, was living a life full of sin, and wanted nothing to do with faith or religion. Thanks be to God, I had a full reversion and came back to my faith after a long journey and some incredible experiences. Today I'm going to share with you the story of how I met Jesus and how I continue to meet Jesus and how you can too. This is not some new agey type spiritual video. I know what you're thinking. I thought the same thing when I heard about this. I'm going to share with you an ancient tradition that goes back centuries that allows you to come into the full presence of Jesus Christ. One day after finishing a meditation session, I was talking to one of my mentors. I was talking to him about my meditation and how I liked the practice that I was doing. This was early in my journey back to Catholicism. He told me about some of the dangers of meditation and told me about a form of meditation that is an ancient tradition that goes back centuries, called Eucharistic adoration. I told him I'd never heard of it and I had no idea what it was. After explaining to me that it was just walking into a chapel and walking into a church and being in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and that was it, I thought that he was just joking around with me, and I really just had no idea what he was talking about still. So he told me to go to a church one day, go to a Eucharistic adoration session, and see what happened. I can tell you today that making that decision was probably the best decision that I ever made in my life. Let's rewind. If you're a Catholic or have seen anything about Catholics in the Catholic Mass, then you'll know that at one point in the Mass, the priest will hold up the bread. He'll say some words, he'll put it back down, and he will then give the bread and often the wine to the people that are in the pews, and they will then eat it. As Catholics, we believe that the Eucharist is the true body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ. We don't just believe that because we're crazy or just thought this idea out of nowhere. It's actually biblical. Look up John 6. It's the first time that many disciples left Jesus because he told them about the teaching of the Eucharist. He told them that whoever doesn't eat my flesh and drink my blood will never have true life in them. So many people left him after this because they were very confused about what he was teaching. Since the beginning of the Catholic Church, over 2,000 years old, this has been the teaching. And every time you go to the Catholic Mass and the priest does a consecration, makes the bread and the wine the true body and blood, soul and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ, Catholics are taking into their body Jesus, and they are having a full experience with him. That's not what I'm talking about here today. What I'm talking about here today is Eucharistic adoration. A priest can take a consecrated host, which is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ, and they often put it in a monstrance. In that monstrance, it will usually be in the church, in the chapel, in a raised position, and the people will come into the chapel or the church, and it is a time to pray, worship, and meditate. When I learned about this, as I said, I told my mentor that I thought that this was kind of crazy. I had no idea what this was about. I didn't even fully believe in what the Eucharist was at the time. Well, I started going to Eucharistic adoration. My first day, I went to a church, I sat down in the pews, and I just sat there. There was this big host just sitting there on the altar in the monstrance, and I was just looking at it. And to be honest, I didn't really feel too much. It was a nice quiet setting in the church. It was peaceful, you know? But other than that, I didn't really feel too much. And so I left. I spent about 30 minutes to 45 minutes there. And I left and I got back in my car and I went back to my job. About a week later, I felt a pull. It was like a magnetic force that was just pulling me back to that church. Every Tuesday, they would have Eucharistic adoration in that church. And I went back again. I went back the next Tuesday. And the next Tuesday, I began to get in a deeper form of prayer, meditation, and worship. I felt my soul beginning to change. Again, next Tuesday, I felt a stronger pull. Every week that went by, I couldn't stay away from the church. Something was pulling me back into that church and I had to be there. This is where I had some incredible experiences happen to me. By the grace of God, I would be looking at the Eucharist and everything around me would pretty much just disappear. And all I would see would be the Eucharist. Everything around me almost would like melt. And the focus on the Eucharist would be so strong, it was like a sunshine coming and just flooding my face. There's a quote, if you look at the sun, you get tan. If you look at the Eucharist, you become a saint. And this was truly what was happening to me. I began to feel things in my mind begin to change rapidly. For example, during this time, I really didn't have a position on abortion at all. I remember having conversations with people about it, and I would always play devil's advocate about why a woman should be able to have an abortion. It was during this time that my mind completely began to change about this subject. And I wasn't even researching it. I wasn't really talking about it all too often, but there was a time very soon after I begun going to adoration often, abortion came into my mind and I was disgusted by it. And I knew right then and right there that it was wrong. Another experience that I had is that the type of music that I listened to started to sound really bad to me. I grew up loving rap music. I grew up on Lil Wayne, Drake, all the hip hop. I went to all the concerts. I loved it. It was during this time that when I would go back into my car after spending an hour in Eucharistic adoration, this music would just not sound good to me anymore. It would start to sound really bad. It like almost hurt my ears. I began to really understand the words and the lyrics they were talking about, even the beats, and it just sounded disordered to me. That doesn't mean that I never listened to a beat or never listened to a hip hop song here or there, but honestly, very infrequently. I've changed the music that I've listened to. I know that was from going to adoration because I had never felt that way before going here. Overall, my faith began to change completely. I started to go back to the Mass. I knew every single Sunday I had to be there. And now to this day, I try to go every single day in the morning to daily Mass. Now, this wasn't my doing. I wasn't just sitting down on the computer researching all day trying to figure out ways for me to come back to the faith. I literally just started going to Eucharistic adoration. This started to change me. I knew that that Eucharist on that altar or in that chapel where I was truly Jesus. Now, you can call me crazy, but all I'm asking is that you at least go and try it. You don't have to be Catholic to go to Eucharistic adoration. You can just find a chapel by looking up online, a Eucharistic adoration chapel. Sometimes they're even 24/7, and you can go there, just sit there, and just do nothing. Oftentimes, I'll just read a book in there, look at the Eucharist, and just think. I'll do some prayers, and I'll leave. I'll tell you right now that most people that I've spoken to that go to Eucharistic adoration, their lives have just completely changed. It has become something that they do so often, and it has become a part of their faith life and a meditation that they focus on that is so fruitful to their lives. This is how I met Jesus. I came to know Jesus through the Eucharist, an ancient tradition that goes back 2,000 years. Again, this isn't some new agey type stuff. It might sound weird and sound kind of crazy, but this is where my life completely did a 180, was going to Eucharistic adoration. That's how I met Jesus, and I know that's how you can too. If you think I'm crazy, just go try it like I said, and watch what happens. I truly believe if that is Jesus Christ on that altar, that he will change you. You do have to be open to it, but go with an open mind and see what happens. That's all I can ask. Thanks for watching, and subscribe and like this channel if you haven't done so already. We'll see you in the next video.